Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Beamer.
Byron Leak.
Mark Teague.
Leo Suarez.
Jennifer Truman.
Latanya Williams.
Linda Davis.
Nardra Johnson.
Johnny Thomas.
Okay, and next up is the approval of the meeting minutes from last month. I can entertain a motion to approve those or any edits that folks would like to request.
I make a motion, we approve those.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved. Are there any revisions or additions to today's agenda?
Just want to note that our two alternates have not been assigned a committee yet, so if you wanted to think about that and make those assignments today or at the next meeting.
Okay. We need to do that at a meeting, don't we? Or in between is fine? Do we need to do it at a meeting, or is in between also fine? Okay, gotcha. We'll chat today, and then I think I know where they want to be, but they might have disagreement with each other. So how's that? We'll decide before next meeting. Thank you for the reminder. Any other revisions or additions from the table? Okay. I don't think it's quite 4 o'clock yet, so we'll hold public comment until 4 and move straight into discussion of advocacy opportunities. Has anyone attended any advocacy opportunities this month? Go ahead.
I did attend the TPAC meeting. I think some of that's going to be discussed when Ben comes up. So it was definitely a good meeting, but I say the next one is May 15th. It is virtual, so they does have the option to be virtual, so anyone can attend, and it's from 9 to 12. If you go on Campo's website, you'll see the link of the meeting. So if you can't be in person, virtual is definitely an option, so.
I attended the Transit 101 training on the 30th, which was awesome. It was very insightful.
I was there also. Definitely a lot of information. It's like almost like there's so much going on, even though it was a few hours long. It's kind of still a crash course because there's so many components and moving parts. So it's probably worth like a rewatch maybe once a year, and you just pick out a couple extra things that, and then eventually you'll get it right.
Anything particularly insightful?
I felt like I heard it before, but I feel like the work plan process and how you have the transit plan, and underneath that you have the bus plan, and underneath that you have the work plan. That relationship, the cadence and how it's planned, the opportunities for public feedback that come with those plans, it was good to see it again and kind of reiterates it for me, and I feel like more knowledgeable about it. I don't know about you.
I enjoyed it and realized how complex and all the organizations working together. It was a crash course, and I had a ton of notes from it, but it's almost a good reminder, refresher on an annual basis.
Glad to hear it. Any other folks had meetings they attended and talked about stuff about? Okay. Just a reminder, this is a placeholder that we put in our agenda so that if you do, we have a chance to share it with each other and with the folks that are watching this at home on YouTube. I assume there are a few people that do that. So thank you for bringing those back to us for all of our attention. Next thing is the staff items. So I think that transitions from talking about WIC Transit Plan and the meetings we attended to hearing directly from the man who's handling it all. Welcome.
Good afternoon. It's nice to be back to see y'all again. So I'm here today to talk about the 10-year investment strategy that we've released. It's our draft 10-year investment strategy, which really forms the backbone of our WIC Transit Plan. And as you've already mentioned, as some of you may have learned by attending the WIC Transit 101, the 10-year investment strategy is really the backbone of our program. And from that flows the bus plan and then ultimately the yearly work plans. So today I'll review the development process that we've gone through to develop this 10-year investment strategy. provide the actual draft 10-year investment strategy to you, and then go over the next steps for that we'll be taking to get the draft, to get the plan adopted next fall. So as you may remember, I think I touched on this last time I was here too. We've had two phases of public engagement to date. The first phase was back in the spring of last year, and the second phase was this past winter. We finished it up at the end of January. The first phase, we focused on choices, trade-offs, and priorities. Second phase, we narrowed down to really three prime questions. One, is there agreement from the public to switch from focusing on commuter rail as our rail investment to focusing on regional rail? Second question was around instead of commuter rail, developing a bus rapid transit line between Raleigh and Durham to meet those regional transportation needs. And then third, whether to focus on serving more people or serving more places first. Not an either or, but just which one should we focus on first. The phase one survey that was done back in the spring of last year told us that the public thought regional connections are important regardless of mode, and that rail projects, and especially commuter rail, so that at this time that is our primary rail project, should continue to be prioritized. When we talk to transit riders versus non-transit riders, we had transit riders tell us so they want better bus service, more frequency, longer hours. They're less interested in commuter rail and care about regional service. We also found that they care about bus stop amenities, whereas non-transit riders, they prioritized, again, commuter rail. They prioritized connecting to Raleigh, Cary, and other towns, and prioritized more sidewalks. So the phase two engagement that wrapped up this winter, we had an online survey with 3 questions, and those 3 that I already mentioned. We had 24 pop-up events and 5 local partner presentations. We had advertisements through social media. We partnered with KPASA Media to reach our Hispanic population. We also used the rider apps that are out there and tried to push information out through that. We held 4 focus group meetings, and we also held a stakeholder outreach event where we leveraged their engagement to also help us reach more public. So the first question we asked was around investing in regional rail. As you can see on the screen here, 76% of the public in the survey responded that they agreed that was a good way to move forward with rail, and instead of focusing on this commuter rail. Folks were excited to learn about the opportunity where Wake Transit may invest in the S-Line, as DOT is getting ready to start service on that in a few years to Wake Forest. Next, we asked about the connecting Raleigh and Durham with bus rapid transit. 70% of the public agreed that that was a good idea. We did find that there was some confusion about bus rapid transit, and so we need to continue to provide more education information about bus rapid transit. And then we had folks, especially at in-person events, tell us that they didn't think that bus rapid transit would work on I-40, or that it wouldn't solve the problem. So again, that goes to more education and information that we can provide. Next, we talked about the serving more people or serving more places first. Obviously, there's preference to do both, and that bared out in the survey where it was around 50-50. Obviously, transit users were more heavily and wanted to serve more people first. Non-transit users wanted to serve more places first. Partly that was also how we showed and provided the trade-off in serving more places meant outlying areas of Wake County. Serving more people primarily meant investing in Raleigh and Cary and the existing bus services. So how did we take that and turn that into our 10-year investment strategy? So first, we looked at our projected revenue. So we expect to raise or to get approximately $3.3 billion in revenue over the next 10 years. As you can see, a majority of that comes from the half-cent sales tax. We have some long-term bond proceeds in there. We have the vehicle registration fees that we get funding from, as well as rental car tax, fare box revenue, federal funds, and some state funds. 90% of the revenue we do expect to be from sales tax, long-term bond proceeds, and federal funds, with the 10% of funding being the rest. We have identified and will continue to work on some funding challenges that we know we have with around $112 million, which is the vehicle rental tax revenue and the Wake Transit fare box revenue. We're hoping to begin discussing the fare box revenue question later this fall through the TPAC process. We have a fare work group that'll be meeting that'll talk about how we handle fare box revenue when it comes to the model and putting that into the financials. And then the lead agencies are continuing to discuss the vehicle rental tax revenue question. So with all that said, we have approximately $1.8 billion committed to future projects, with around $1.5 billion, $1.2 billion available for new projects and new investments. So as we begin developing the investment strategy, we use identified transit priorities from the community and stakeholders, and then we use that to select projects, programs, and services. We made sure to look at our cost estimates, confirm the revenues, and make sure those revenues aligned with spending and adhered to agreed financial management guidelines. And that led us to the draft 2035 investment strategy, which we have tied and will be tying to outcomes and expected results as far as how many more miles of frequent service we'll be operating, how many more, how much of the population we expect to be within a quarter mile of transit, a half mile of transit, those type of things. So again, we have a balanced strategy right now where our investment strategy for the most part matches the expected revenues. So as we looked at the priorities, we started with our 4 big moves that were identified in the original transit plan, and those have remained. And then we looked at our community and stakeholder priorities from phase 1 and 2 and folded and created our investment priorities for the next 10 years. Those fall under the 3 main priorities of investing in the regional network, serving more people, and serving more places. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that now. So under the Connect the Region big move, we will continue to invest in projects and services to make it easy to travel regionally. We want to continue investing in rail, but again, it's more that regional rail network versus a new commuter rail, and look at building regional BRT services with the extensions from Cary out to RTP, from Gardner to Clayton, and then the new BRT that we're looking at along I-40 connecting Raleigh with RTP and serving the airport. On the screen here, you'll see what we call our DNA map, which has been around since the beginning of Wake Transit. The 2 primary changes with this map is that we no longer show commuter rail. We instead just show the existing rail services. We now show the S-Line investment up to Wake Forest, the potential S-Line investment down to Apex that Wake Transit could invest in, and then we also showed the new bus rapid transit line running approximately along the I-40 corridor. Next, we have Connect All Communities, where we want to continue to improve existing connections between and to Wake County communities, expanding the local and regional buses, make sure every town's connected with Cary, Raleigh, or RTP, and also providing some town-to-town connections, and expanding local bus routes so towns are connected to each other. And we also have a goal of building at least 5 community transportation hubs in the outlying communities in Wake County. As you can see on this map here, this shows how we're trying to add some new regional connections, some new town-to-town connections, and the clear circles there are areas where we're going to look at doing a potential community transportation hub. We've only funded about 5 of them, so not every community will get one, but we are looking to put those in places where they have the most bus and local services. And then next, we are continuing to invest in frequent and reliable urban mobility, which again is focusing in on our frequent network, primarily here in Raleigh and also in Cary, and also in our bus rapid transit network. We currently are right around 100 or 101 miles of frequent network, again, all in Raleigh right now. We are, over the next 10 years, we are hoping and we expect to about triple that to over 300 miles of the frequent network, with potential of expanding it in Raleigh here, but also to beginning to turn some of the Cary bus routes over into frequent service as well as the need is shown there. And finally, we have our enhanced access to transit. We'll continue to invest in bus stop improvements, sidewalks and crosswalks that get you to those bus stops. And we've also are doubling funding for the community funding area to provide more funds to the outlying communities to invest in transit services and transit infrastructure in their communities. Going a little bit deeper into the regional network. So as I mentioned, we're putting aside a pot of money that we're calling Rail Ready. That is initially going to be planned out for annual increments, but those can roll over. So if we don't have any rail investment for a couple of years, we'll have a bigger pot to invest later. We are looking to the regional rail implementation plan that's currently underway by the two MPOs. That's supposed to be completed in June. We're hoping that that will provide us some guidance on potential investments. And some of those potential investments may include stations, track improvements, and increased rail service. Right now, we're setting aside right around $250 million over the 10 years for rail-ready investments. We'll also continue to implement and expand our BRT network. We have our core network, which are our four original lines here in Raleigh: Newbern, Western, Southern, and Northern. And then we are adding in the two, I think in the plan, or right now with the plan, we're calling them spurs, but the two splits of the Northern corridor, one up to Midtown and one up to Triangle Town area that Raleigh's currently studying. We're also including our BRT extensions out to RTP into Clayton, and then development of our BRT service on I-40 from Raleigh to the Triangle Mobility Hub. And then we also are setting aside money for studying what we're calling our next-gen BRT network, which will include 5 to 6 corridors. Some of those include Harrison Avenue, Kildare Farm corridor in Cary, as well as I believe the Blue Ridge Road corridor here in Raleigh and a few others around Raleigh. We also, I believe, part of that may also look at the extension of the northern corridor, potential extension of the northern corridor out towards the Nightdale area as well. So we have a number of future BRT routes, and we'll pick 5 or 6 of those to study over the next 10 years so that we can get them in line and continue to expand our BRT network overall. We want to continue serving more people and serve more people by expanding our frequent bus route, again, increasing hours and days of operation, and adding, our goal is to add at least 1 new frequent route each year. I think right now we're targeting around 13 total frequent routes added over the next 10 years. We are setting aside a 5% pot of contingency funds for unanticipated projects, continuing to set aside 15% funding for paratransit operations that are required in conjunction with fixed route. We expect to fund over 40 expansion vehicles plus ongoing replacement vehicles that we already fund, setting aside roughly $3 million a year for bus stop, sidewalk, and crosswalk improvements, funding up to 10 connection points where frequent routes intersect, as well as setting aside funding for a maintenance facility study, as we believe that especially with frequent route increase and potential some of these BRT extensions, we may start pushing Raleigh close to their limit on their maintenance facility. So we want to recognize that and set aside some funds to begin studying if we need future expansion of that. We're also going to serve more places, focusing on regional connections, adding about 6 new regional routes, plus a town-to-town route between Rollsville and Wake Forest, and also looking at a new commuter route from, I believe, Raleigh over to the Amazon facility in Garner. That was specifically requested in some of our outreach, so we will be looking at doing that. And then finally, for serving more community, and for also providing more community facilities, as I mentioned before, investing in community transportation hubs, increase investment in the community funding area program, and investing in an airport interchange facility off of I-40 that could be served by the I-40 BRT and other routes that traverse that area and could serve the airport. And as you can see here, we just another chart showing our proposed increased investment in bus service. You can see how we expect as BRT operations to come on and continuing to add new fixed route service out to 2035. One thing I do want to note on the bus service, particularly if you look at some of the maps that we have, both the ones in that handout I left at your seat as well as on our website, you'll see a lot of dotted lines for the future bus investment. That is because we want to recognize the fact that this plan itself will not identify specific bus route improvements. We are using our upcoming bus plan, which some of you have talked about, which is really our bus implementation element of the planning. We'll be starting the bus plan later this year. We will use that effort to specifically identify bus routes that will receive improvement or new bus routes, and we'll also use that effort to time out when those bus services will be implemented. And we work on that plan very closely with the bus operators, with your staff at Raleigh, staff at Cary, staff at Go Triangle, to ensure that there's capacity and that the increases we're proposing are feasible. Finally, for next steps, so we have, I believe it's around 17 pop-up events and presentations we're doing around the county over the next month. As you can see here, you're towards the top. We've already done a pop-up event in Wake Forest and Apex. We have another one in Cary this Saturday, and then another one next Saturday in Morrisville, as well as a number of presentations to other local governments. And finally, I do want to encourage you to encourage your network to review the investment strategy and supplemental documents and provide comments on the website. You have that nice executive summary handout we've created, and then this is our project website. It's also on the back of that handout at your seat too, as well as a QR code that you can scan with your cell phone and go directly to the site. The site is cell phone friendly as well, so you should be able to see everything and provide feedback on your cell phone as well as you can, just as well as you could on a computer. One other thing I will note that you'll see when you go to the website, we do have 3 companion documents that we're also out for public comment at the same time as this draft investment strategy. These companion documents will ultimately be folded in as part of the Wake Transit Plan. That is our prioritization policy, which just prioritizes how we would spend money if money starts getting tight. And then we have a new set of microtransit guidelines to guide how microtransit should be developed and designed for funding by Wake Transit. And then we also have our community funding area program management plan. We've gone through a major update to that. And so that's also out there for comment. And with that, so we have our public engagement period open now through the end of the month. We'll have a staff core technical team meeting in June where we'll review all the engagement results and review the proposed recommendations that are going into the draft plan. And then we should have the draft plan fully done by the end of June, after which we'll start another engagement effort on the draft plan and then move into the adoption process this fall for that. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. As always, appreciate all of the details. The Wake Transit Plan is a big project, but very, very important to the stuff that we're doing with Go Raleigh especially. Do you guys have questions for Mr. Howell?
Yes, I do see on the study, phase 1, that the 2 highest items were bus stop and sidewalks. However, when we looked at the budget for 25 or for 26, there was basically no increase. So how are we going to address the challenges that the public are requesting for bus shelters and sidewalks?
So with Wake Transit, and with this plan, we are setting aside funding that would be available. We're saying we are assuming, up to $3 million a year, but then we rely on our partner agencies to submit projects, to actually to take those funds down and do that work. So I can't remember for this year, for this work plan, how that came out. If we work on a request basis, and so we rely on our partners, the transit agencies and the towns, to submit projects to us for funding. So.
And another question, are there conversations of including Lenovo Center with a transportation link?
Yes, so that is actually one of the conversations and one really of the center points that we've talked about with that proposed I-40 bus rapid transit, is that it would be, that is one of the areas that we want to serve with that service, would be to provide would be for the bus rapid transit service that will eventually go onto I-40 to provide service to the Lenovo Center complex.
Thank you. I think that would be a very good move for the future.
Yeah.
And a priority. I know the city council has been discussing the zoning around the Lenovo Center, and one of the major concerns was the sidewalks and transportation.
Yeah. Yeah, so we do, that is a big area we want to serve, and the business community has let us know through the Raleigh Chamber, the Regional Transportation Alliance, they have let us know that they want that area served too. So we are planning to serve that as part of our BRT system.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is Johnny Thomas. I had 3 questions, but you know what? I'm only going to really hit you with one. This is a 10-year plan. What are your benchmarks? Like, do you got a 2-year benchmarks where you know you want to have this much done, and if it's not done or something's going wrong, you have to take that time and say, wait a second, we're way over budget, we can't do it, we're going to have to make changes, or like if you're ahead, you can say, hey, you know what, we're doing good, let's jump onto this project. What are your benchmarks for this?
That's something that we'll be working on over the next couple months to formalize as part of that final draft document. I don't know that we have those yet, but we do, as part of that final document, we'll definitely set out, some expected outcomes and set out some goals for, generally we base our goals over the next 10 years, but we'll definitely be looking at some interim goals and to try and make sure that we keep things moving forward and can accomplish everything that we're putting out there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did you have other questions?
The other 2 questions is, okay, I'll do this real quick. The toll road that's going to go up on Capitol, and that's going to affect routes too. Are y'all looking at that? And the other thing, you can add this into it, with you now going to Durham, there's going to be drivers who's probably not going to want to make that drive, as they're going to be like commuter lots, because that's going to give y'all a lot more people. I already know people say, oh, heck, I don't have to drive there, I'll take the bus because of gas prices. It's a lot cheaper to take you than for me to drive up there. Is all of this being considered into your,
To a certain extent, for the toll road, from the bus plan, from the transit plan, I would say we're probably agnostic on the tolls. Obviously, depending on how they design and build the toll road, it could provide huge benefits to transit. It could also provide some hindrances. So really I think for that, we're probably going to just have to react to, and our transit partners, primarily Raleigh, will have to react to what ultimately gets decided on the toll road. As far as park and rides and whatnot, I think we do expect that there would be some park and ride opportunities as we begin designing and developing that I-40 BRT service. If we are able to move that forward, we would definitely be looking at park and ride opportunities. I think the Lenovo Center is probably an excellent opportunity for that, and maybe one of the best ones at least in the Raleigh area for that. So we'll definitely be looking for that and working with our partners to see if that's something that we can put in place.
A part of the expanded frequency route, you said you're looking to do one per year. With the growth in Raleigh, that seems kind of small and not aggressive. I mean, for it to be starting in 2035, I think you should have more routes to consider, maybe like 2 or 5, but I think one seems the bar is really low, considering how many people are moving to this area today.
Yeah. One of the things we've run into when looking at bus operations and trying to continue to expand our bus network is that, especially over the next 10 years, we have some financial policies in place governing governing debt and how much operating we can spend, how much money we can spend on operations and bus operations versus how much we have in debt. And that's where we've had to do a lot of balancing, and we've had to actually bring that number of frequent routes down, because if we invest too much in continuing to expand the frequent network, we end up getting into financial trouble because we're spending more on operations than we have on capital. And the only thing we can really go to debt on is capital. And so while we originally thought that the next 10 years were going to be a lot more rosy and we were going to be able to do a lot more, as we got into it and began working with our tax district administration and looking at the financial model, we learned that because we're taking out the commuter rail, our previous models have had that commuter rail project debt funded. And so that's like over $1 billion in debt. And it would allow us to do a lot more of operation stuff because we would stay way within our debt to operating ratio. By taking that commuter rail project out, we don't have this huge capital project now to get debt on. We are still planning to use debt, but it's on a lot of smaller capital projects. And we've now also got to figure out how we can do that, because it's no longer this huge project that's only one agency. It's a lot of smaller projects with multiple agencies. So as we figure out that, we may be able to do more with expanding the frequent network. But for now, based on everything that we've done, we're limiting ourselves to, approximately 13 routes over the 10 years. And then partly too, we had identified some routes that Raleigh actually brought in for FY26. So we had identified, I think, the number 1 route as a future frequent route. It's actually coming in earlier. So when they brought in those route investments early, we also had to reevaluate things. So again, that's where hopefully by the time we start into and work on our bus plan, we may be able to change those numbers a little bit and figure out exactly where those frequent routes are going, or what routes we can turn to frequent.
Because you'll definitely have the revenue, because more people are here buying cars and property tax, so there's revenue out there. But as you talk about having more expansion to go to Lenovo, that's great, but the airport is definitely a plus, because everybody would like to have transportation to and from the airport. So I think that should be like number 1 and then Lenovo.
Yeah, and that's what we've heard from the business community too. They want us to be able to serve the airport, so. One quick note I'll make too, just since you brought up concern over a frequent route, I had mentioned we have some challenges with two of our funding sources. With those 2 funding sources, we have in the background, we've prepared a scenario to look at of what would happen if those 2 challenged funding sources were to go away completely. And while it really doesn't affect our ability to do all the capital projects that we're proposing, what it would affect is our ability to do operating. And so it actually could affect the ability to be able to add to our frequent service network. We're hoping that's not going to be the case, but we have that done in the background just in case, as we continue to work through these 2 challenging funding sources.
Thank you.
I have 2 follow-up questions on that line of thought that LaTanya had. at this board, we are focused in Raleigh, and while we appreciate the needs of the other folks that are partnering with us on the WIG Transit Plan, we're going to focus on what Raleigh and Raleigh's riders need. So my question comes from kind of that lens, because I think one of the things that was sold in the Phase 2 engagement was that if we aren't paying for commuter rail, we can have more buses more frequently. And hearing that there is some, fiscal challenges in actually accomplishing that, I think should be made transparent to the community, because most of the folks that are existing Go Raleigh riders, as the survey showed, care about more frequency and more span. We hear that pretty much all the time. That's why we advanced routes ahead of time, because we need them already. So I don't think I'm speaking out of line, and anyone on the board can correct me, when we care very much about continued operational costs and being covered by the WIG Transit Plan and continuing additional frequency. And then the comment that you just made about the challenging funding sources, would losing those impact just additional frequent service or would it also impact operating costs for current frequent services?
It would affect the new planned services over the next 10 years, not those that are existing or already funded.
Okay. And then I think probably connected to this, my other high-level question is like the prioritization policy that you mentioned is kind of an amendment to this. Are there high-level things that this board should be aware of in the prioritization? Because that sounds like somewhere where those conversations and choices between frequency and operating and capital will actually play out.
The prioritization policy, I will say one of the things that we've done this time around with that is make it much more high level, focusing primarily on essentially if projects are already funded, they continue to get funded. If projects are planned for funding, and already programmed and planning was moving forward, those are continuing to be funded. Where it gets, where we would really start looking at cutting things out is if they were maybe programmed for a couple years in advance and, we were supposed to start spending, say we're in FY27, there's a project that was planned to start in FY29, but maybe some study money was supposed to be funded in 27. If things were really tight, we may not fund that study money. We may instead, we would instead focus on the existing projects that are underway, and projects that were, programmed to be fully funded in 27. So that's sort of the flavor of the prioritization policy. I do recommend, if you get a chance to take a look on the website and take a look at it, we do have a comment form with that where you can provide some comments. But to your point about the frequent service and frequent network, that does fall in both to the prioritization policy, but also to just to the overall transit plan.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful to know. And then I think to the board, I think this is why our advocacy at our partner organizations is so important, to go to those WIG Transit Plan meetings and to go to listen to MPO meetings and Campo planning meetings, is to be able to understand what Raleigh's relationship to these funding sources is in comparison to our sister communities. So just as a reminder, this is why it's important to do that work outside of these meetings. Thank you for bringing the information to us. Does anyone else have questions for Mr. Howell?
I do.
Go ahead.
You had said during your presentation about Lenova Center being a place where it could be used as a park and ride. Do you understand that this summer they're going to be starting a 5-phase construction? Could the fairgrounds area be used as well, since that's close by?
Yeah, I think from the transit plan side, we would be open to anywhere that makes sense. One thing to remember, that I-40 BRT is not, at this point, we're not expecting it to be open for service until about 2034, 2035. So that was one of the reasons I'd mentioned Lenova Center, because I expect that they'll have at least a couple of phases of that construction done by then and maybe have some parking deck capacity. But certainly, and again, that's the type of thing where we would probably rely on Raleigh or whoever's operating that service to figure out where the best place for the park and ride, how much to spend, how much they can spend on building a park and ride or leasing space for a park and ride, and we would be providing funding to that project sponsor for that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Final questions and thoughts? Thank you for your time today, Mr. Howell.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome back anytime you have updates for us.
All right.
It's definitely after 4 now. Do we have public comment? Apologies for making you wait through our presentation. We never want to start early and miss anyone, though.
Good afternoon. I'm Chip Thrasher. I have a few things. About Lenovo Center, I just have a question. This might be more Go Raleigh, but is there any shorter term solution than BRT? My understanding is that it's NC State service during the week and during games and the 100 Go Triangle. So is that a priority for Go Raleigh or not really?
We can answer that after you finish, so you don't
keep
lose your
going.
time.
Sure. My second thing is, a few people I've talked to who own electric scooters have had trouble bringing them on the bus because the operator will say they have to put it on the bike rack. Is it allowed for them to bring it inside the bus? And if so, can that be clarified to operators so that people don't get denied for that? My third thing is, sometimes on the bus, the stop requested is really loud. Like it's like blows my ears out. I don't have the exact number. I can see Click Fix next time, but I just might be worth looking into. That's all.
Thank you for coming and bringing, it gets high level at the Wake Transit Plan and then all the way down to like the nitty gritty details. And that's what we do here. I'm going to look at David Walker on some of the operational pieces and see if we have any answers to the electric scooter and the stop requested piece first.
So for Lenovo, there are no current plans to serve that center with any additional services. As Ben mentioned in his presentation, that's certainly something that we're looking at, longer term. We are definitely not set up as an agency to serve the high volumes of people that would be coming out at the end of a large-scale event like that. You have to have 20, 30 buses all at one time to manage even a very small percentage of people that might decide to ride the bus there. So that's kind of a different game for an agency our size. Electric scooters, I'll have to check our policy, but I'm pretty sure you're not allowed to bring those on board the bus due to the battery on the scooter, but I'll just have to check that policy. Maybe we can review that one in finance and policy.
We are currently reviewing all of the policies for things like that within our committee. So we'll be taking up conversations in committee if you feel like attending extra meetings. Otherwise, you can hear the notes of them on these meetings. And then the loudness on the speakers.
Yeah, there are settings that the driver can control that are somewhat, small in range, and then there's behind-the-scenes settings that the maintenance staff can do, and sometimes it's those behind-the-scenes settings that, for whatever reason, get out of sync with what they should be. We just need a bus number that occurs on, and we can get it reported and adjusted. You can use our goraleigh.org email account, and just a bus number would be all we needed for that and what the issue was.
All right. So is there any contact on RTA that I can stay in the loop with about the policy on battery scooters?
I think that is under my committee, Finance and Policy, and we're in the process of reviewing all of our policies. I don't believe that we have a specific one for electric scooters. Probably it would be added to bicycles, but that's sort of our work plan for this year, is to review the policies. And at our next meeting, we can address that and try to find out if there's currently a policy and then work on creating one.
Sure, can I stay in the loop on that?
Sure.
You can always email me at jen@jenniferdruman.com, and I can connect you with anyone on the board.
All right.
My email's out there. Everyone has it anyways. It's fine. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I like nitty-gritty details, so I appreciate that. Were there other public comments? Okay. More Wake Transit Plan updates in the form of BRT updates from our very own Het Patel.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Raleigh Transit Authority members. Het Patel Transit, I'll be providing a quick update on the BRT program and the projects. Ben kind of did a high-level overview of what else is coming, but this is the core BRT corridors that the City of Raleigh is a project sponsor for. So currently under our purview from an implementation perspective to try to get constructed and service going. So those core corridors are New Bern Avenue is the most advanced. It is in that pre-construction phase. And then the southern and western corridors are both in final design. And then Ben mentioned the northern corridor and the potential spurs. They're being referred to as spurs, but they really are going to eventually, even in the Wake Transit Plan reporting side of things, are going to start to show up as two separate corridors pretty quickly here, because we have made those changes in the annual work plan process, and there's going to be dedicated funding for both corridors to advance into design once we've completed this planning study for the northern corridor. So right now, really, and I'll get into the details of that, but we're trying to identify those routes before we can start any level of design or engineering work for the northern corridor. And then Ben also mentioned a couple extensions that are out there currently programmed through the North Carolina Department of Transportation funding, which is the extensions from Cary to RTP and Garner out to Clayton. So the update today really focuses on New Bern Avenue, as that is the most advanced, and some of the questions that we've been hearing about more recently are related to when New Bern Avenue is going to go to construction. So New Bern Avenue is 5.4 miles with 3.3 miles of dedicated bus lanes, 10 new stations that are planned with 7 60-foot articulated buses and transit signal priority at signalized intersections. In the past updates, we've kind of talked about how we've had challenges with getting construction bids for the New Bern Avenue project. And we've had an industry day as well as met with 10 local and regional state contractors that are interested in the project to really understand from them what they see as risks to the project, where there were some challenges into if they thought the project was attractive, why they didn't submit the bids the first time around, or what some other challenges may have been that precluded them from submitting bids in the past. And since then, we've come up with an approach that breaks up the construction activities in 3 areas. So area 1 is the downtown Raleigh area of Wilmington, Blunt Streets, New Bern Avenue, and Edenton one-way pairs. That would really just be all of the horizontal roadway work that needs to happen within that downtown area. Area 2 would be the transit way, so that's where the median running transit way physically separating general purpose traffic from those dedicated bus lanes from Pool Road out to Wake Med, Sunnybrook, is area 2. And then area 3 is where we don't have dedicated bus lanes east of 440, but we do have stations as well as some localized station work that needs to happen with sidewalks, utilities, and then the actual vertical station work. And so area 3 is where we're going to put in all of the other stations as well. So that would include the package for stations within area 1 and area 2 in that last package. From a timeline perspective, the re-advertisement for Area 1 is actually live now. It went live on April 23rd, and we have a pre-submittal meeting tomorrow afternoon at Go Raleigh Operations Facility. So that is where contractors can come in to learn more about the project, ask questions that the city then responds to. We do have a bid opening date for that Area 1 as June 20th. So that is the deadline for the contractors to submit their bids. And again, we have between now and June 11th or 16th to answer any questions that they may come up with. and provide them with additional clarity if they needed to. We have responded again to some of the concerns we have heard and increased the anticipated construction contract timeline for that Area 1 to 30 months. So again, that's more time that the contractor has to complete the construction activities and is not limiting them to a 2-year construction window. Area 2 is the one that is the more critical path from a schedule perspective, because that is the most amount of construction activity that needs to happen within the median running transitway between Pool Road and Wake Med. So that one is actually a longer construction time frame of 42 months, which is 3.5 years of construction activities. That will be advertised in July of this year. And then the third package, which was again the vertical components, all the stations, and then the horizontal work that's needed outside of the 440 Beltline, would be fall of this year, and that would fall within the same construction timeline as Area 2 from an overall completion perspective, so that all of the stations work as well as all of the Area 2 work kind of finishes around the same time. And then kind of just rounding out overall program updates, and I focused on New Bern Avenue, but I did want to quickly highlight that the Southern Corridor is at 30% design. We're about to submit 30% designs to NCDOT for their review for the Southern Corridor. The Western Corridor has kicked off the 30% design phase with our final design team, and that is anticipated to get to a milestone of 30% design that would be submitted to DOT later this fall. And then the Northern Corridor is, I don't think I have a slide. So again, the Northern Corridor is the one where we're trying to identify a route. We will be doing some public engagement this late summer, early fall, that will be trying to get feedback on the remaining alternatives that are out there. And we can certainly bring anything back to a particular committee if we wanted to do a more detailed presentation.
That probably should come to route.
Are you finished? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. To LaTanya's point, I think route committee will want to see the 30% design. When you take it to NCDOT, we can look at it at the same time. I think lots of productive knowledge about how the community uses routes comes from being able to do those reviews. Did other folks have other questions for Het? I assume you're fine with taking that on?
Yes.
Okay. Did folks have other questions about BRT? I have one. Based on the feedback you got, you extended the construction timelines because that was the riskiest kind of element I think you guys were hearing. Are we able to incentivize doing them faster, or are we only able to penalize them for going over?
So we still do plan for an incentive. That would be a daily incentive for how quickly they can complete it. So if they don't take the full 30 months for that Area 1 and they complete it, 30 days before, then there's a cost that they would recuperate by completing early.
Okay.
And that will be a part of each package. So Area 1, Area 2, and Area 3 all would have those incentives, although Area 2 and Area 3 are probably the ones that would benefit the most from getting into an operations perspective, because Area 1's not driving the schedule.
Okay. That's helpful. I think as you receive bids and feedback at your next meetings, I think we'd just love to hear how that's going. Folks are often asking us, which is why we're asking you. Yes, did you have a question?
Why was New Bern picked over Capital?
So we've looked at a lot of things from a planning perspective. New Bern is the highest, most productive route in our system. So per mile, it has the most ridership. So Capital has the highest ridership, but it is a longer corridor, and it's typically second in its productivity. As you can see that we're doing a Northern Corridor major investment study. For the Northern Corridor, there wasn't a clear identified route that we would have gone into design and engineering with for a bus rapid transit solution, as well as there's a lot of NCDOT projects on the Northern Corridor that are still working through their design efforts and what that Capitol Boulevard ultimately will really look like. And so there was a lot of engineering challenges as well that we have to navigate on that corridor, that we're pushing that into the end of the pipeline.
Okay.
So 30 months, how many months?
30 months for Area 1.
30 months is a long time. I guess that's going to impact the community that's riding through there. I guess that's a lot of stress on the community, I'm saying, basically. Because we know these projects take long, and sometimes we don't see activity being done. But are we looking to do some of these projects at the same time? Or like, why are we having like stagnant times of the construction packages being promoted? Like, why are we not doing it at the same time? Because we're already behind schedule on New Bern Avenue right now. And I know money's being exhausted.
So that was one of the
cost is going up.
Yeah, that was one of the questions we did ask on our one-on-ones with contractors. And some of the feedback that we heard was strategically phasing the construction allows them to better manage their resources of how they submit bids. And so that doesn't preclude, some of the larger contractors to bid all on the project at the same time, as well as inflate their costs, knowing that they're the only ones bidding on the project. And so again, this was done to try to allow everyone to have more opportunity to strategically plan which part of the project they wanted to participate in, as well as manage their schedules within other projects that they may be pursuing or already have on their books.
And are we looking to do this for other corridors? Like, because I know New Bern is like the test. Yeah. So lessons learned from all of this. Are you planning to do this for the next corridor?
I would say our biggest lesson learned from this process is actually doing more targeted outreach with the contractor community in advance of advertising construction. So, Southern Corridor and the Western Corridor both are significantly larger from a cost perspective.
Right.
And that may draw different levels of interests. There may be a different project delivery approach that could also be looked at, where you bring on a contractor earlier on in the design process, and they're able to provide feedback through the design process and make the actual construction of the project more attractive, if that makes sense. And so we will be looking at those items as opportunities instead of just going directly with the approach that we need to break every project up into smaller chunks.
I agree, because this is coming, so it's best to advertise. It's not like it's going away. So, and I think Chris, who's not here, has brought this up before, like, why are we not reaching out further? So,
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear that you guys are exploring alternative project delivery models for the future BRT lines, in as much as we can do that with the federal regulations and city policies and all of that. I think exploring those to the maximum extent possible is in line with where the construction industry is really operating, and it's not always response to RFPs anymore, which is a struggle, I think, for the city government. But I think I'm excited to hear that, and if there is feedback that some of the expertise that lives on our board could be helpful as y'all explore those options, please let us know.
Yep.
And one more question.
I just wanted, it might be asking a similar question in the same way, perhaps, so forgive me if I'm doubling up there, but as you've explored, I know advertisement for these calls for proposals are brand new, just coming out in April. Do you have a sense of the type of competition you'll get out of those contractors' bids? Like, is it a large set of contractors who are interested in this project, or is it pretty small scale?
It's relatively small. So again, we met with 10 that were local, regional, or statewide contractors, and some of them will participate in different packages more than the others. And so again, there was interest from more than one, so that is good, but I don't expect all 10 to submit bids.
Thank you.
If you're listening at home, all 10 of you should submit bids. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for the update. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
We'll have to switch the slide so I know it's on the next on the agenda, sorry. Operations and maintenance gate update. David Walker.
Yeah. So next slide. Last month, we had a public comment regarding the gate at our Go Raleigh operations and maintenance facility. Just for your awareness, this is a City of Raleigh facility. We own it. It's a city asset. It was opened in May of 2011, and fairly quickly, within a year, maybe even less than 2 years, the main driveway gate for buses started experiencing some stress fractures in the gate. It's a pretty wide gate, and it opens up out, and it just sort of hangs over the supports. We submitted to the engineering company that designed it and the contractor for some warranty work. They made some repairs. Those repairs did fix the issue temporarily, but again, in a couple of more years, we started experiencing some of those same issues. We made some additional changes, worked with those design engineers. So basically, we've repeated this process 2, 3, 4 times. Ultimately, in 2024, working with our engineering services department, it was decided to just redesign the gate altogether. So we put together an RFQ. That RFQ was released last fall, and unfortunately, we got no interest or bids. So similar to what Het was just talking about, we did some engagement work with some smaller firms locally, reached out to them, trying to spur interest in this. We made a few tweaks on the RFQ, and it has now been reposted as of, I think, earlier this week. We hope to have, I'm not sure what the close date is. I think it's open for 30 days. And then so hopefully over the summer, we'll be able to review and interview those review packages that are presented, and then get under contract to get the gate worked on maybe later this fall.
Thank you for the follow-up. Does anyone have any questions?
Is the biggest issue to repair the gate or to replace it? Is that what they're trying to figure out what's best?
Both. I mean, we've repaired it multiple times, and, we can, continue putting a Band-Aid on it, or we can just get it redesigned, rebuilt, hopefully bigger, better, newer technology, and we'll just get something that works appropriately. It was never intended to be a gate that opened and closed every single time a bus pulls up to it. That gate would be opening 200, 250 times a day, and that's going to wear out a gate in a very short order. So it was never meant to be that. It would open up in the morning and stay open all day, maybe close up at midnight when the last buses roll in, open back up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when the buses start rolling out for the next day.
Okay, other questions? Thank you for the update. Obviously, it sounds like Raleigh staff is handling this as quickly as we can in terms of bids and re-releasing those. I think what we would ask for as a board is likely just that staff continue to coordinate closely with RITP Dev in terms of operations and what they need in an operational need. Raleigh staff and RITP Dev operations know more about what's needed there than anyone on this table might be able to provide advice, but I think it sounds like it's being handled, so.
Yeah, we meet with them weekly. I'm down there working with the GM on every Thursday morning. Sarah Tromba on our bus facilities team works very closely with the facilities manager. We are doing some interim, I'll say, upgrades. We have received and installed some new signage just for, we've had a few cars pull in inadvertently, so we've put up some new signage on both of the gates. They're much larger, they're much bolder, they're in your face, don't come in here kind of things. There's no crosswalks across those driveways, so we're getting quotes on that now to actually put a crosswalk from one side to the other so that folks see clearly that this is the path you're supposed to take. Don't make a wrong turn and end up walking in on the bus garage. And then so a couple other small things that will get done in the interim until we get a true fix with the gate.
Okay, well, thank you for the update. Yes, you have another question?
Yeah, just one quick question that just dawned on me. Why doesn't the gate stay open from the time you start operations to its close? Is this a security issue?
No, it does stay open. If the gate were functioning appropriately, that's exactly what would happen.
Oh, okay, so there was a misfunction that made it open and close, open and
Right.
close.
There-
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
It's challenging to get it closed every night. You know, the facility is staffed 24 hours a day, so there are people there in the maintenance garage working overnight. So there are people there and staffed, so it does stay open when we would normally be closing it for that short 2 to 3 hour period. But most of the accidental drive-ins or walk-ins have occurred during the daytime.
Other questions? Thank you for the update. It's always good to have the information from before we were here. Next is another update from you regarding the holiday schedule. I think it
Yes.
also came up at public comment.
Had another public comment regarding Juneteenth and, federal holidays and, the fact that Go Raleigh does not provide a reduced level of service on Juneteenth. So on the next slide, I've just put together a quick table that shows all of the federal holidays and what the Go Raleigh holiday schedule is. And you will see that we do not close on every single federal holiday or have reduced levels of service. There are, Washington's birthday, Columbus Day. We provide full level of service on both of those days, and those are both regular City of Raleigh work days as well, just as a matter of fact. Juneteenth is the holiday that was being questioned. We do provide a full level of service on Juneteenth, similar to Washington's birthday and Columbus Day. And Veterans Day as well, I'm sorry, we also is a federal holiday that we provide a full level of service. So there's 4 federal holidays that we provide a full level of service.
Okay, and then I think that the question that we had at the table following the public comment is who are the decision makers on these things? When it comes to, I'm going to say where I think the lines are and ask you to correct me if I'm wrong. When it comes to questions that operators or any employees of RITP Dev have about how they get compensated, those are questions that they take up with their union and with RITP Dev. And as a city advisory board, we don't discuss those items. They're not within our decision-making purview. But the schedule making and deciding which days that we operate at certain schedules would fall to this body or fall to city council?
This body could certainly take it under consideration, and if you wanted to make a recommendation, it would be a recommendation and report of the Raleigh Transit Authority to City Council. City Council would make that ultimate decision.
Okay. So any holiday service schedule change is a recommendation that this body could make, if we so desired, as a recommendation to City Council?
That's correct.
Okay. And then is there, I don't think I've been on the board since any of this has changed. So I'm just curious if there is a operating thought process behind which days get Sunday level service versus which days remain at full service?
Sure. I think I have another slide that just talks a little bit about ridership. I, as well, have not been here as any new holidays have been added or to Go Raleigh services. But one would theorize that if there were a desire to lower service on a holiday or any other day for that matter, you would want to look towards the ridership on that day. So what we've provided here is the ridership last year on Juneteenth, which is June the 19th. It was right at 13,000. Our average weekday ridership during that time period was 13,500. So that's not a significant drop in ridership. If there were a significant drop in ridership on that particular day, it might be something that you would want to consider. Maybe we could lower the level of service to our regular holiday schedule. I did not get it on this slide, but we did look at the holiday before, which is Memorial Day, and the first holiday after, which is July the 4th. And both of those days were right at 8,000. So Memorial Day was 8,045 ridership, and July the 4th was 7,648. So that kind of goes hand in hand with what we're saying.
And they
the
already
ridership.
operate at reduced service?
Yeah, it's a reduced level of service, likely because on those federal holidays, because there's so many businesses and, that are closed, or businesses and offices, that there's just not that need for that lower level of service. But Juneteenth, we're not seeing that at this time.
Okay. I think this is good information. Do folks have questions or want to have a discussion or recommendation around policy for Juneteenth or the holiday schedule in general?
Chair, I would be interested in if there's any, in addition to the public commentary that was made, if there's any information on how, from a public surveying perspective or anything like that, that information is gathered, recognizing what you've just said about how those schedules are made, if there's broader awareness on, when those reductions are made and how we might collect that information. But that may be something we could talk about in a committee or something else as well.
Sure. I think insight into that probably belongs in finance and policy. This is a policy, I suppose, by definition. I think the only thing I want to point out is that if we did want to recommend a change in the holiday schedule for this Juneteenth, I think this is the meeting where we would need to do that in order for it to get to City Council for their consideration before that time. So I just want to let everyone at the table know that. It sounds like staff is recommending that we make no change to the schedule.
That would be staff's recommendation. And just for what it's worth, even though we're not supposed to talk about it, the drivers do get holiday pay on Juneteenth.
Understood.
They get holiday pay when?
On Juneteenth.
Oh.
Madam Chair,
I don't think we knew that before. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Mr.
I
Chair.
have to be excused early. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Have an excellent day.
Thank you.
Okay. Other questions around this policy?
I guess my question would be, well, what are other agencies are doing? Because some areas recognize or have celebrations the weekend before, the weekend after.
I think it is particularly tricky for the middle of the week
Yes.
holidays, as opposed to like Memorial Day is a
Yes.
weekend adjacent holiday.
Yeah, that's my only concern because it falls on a weekday last year as well. So, but this is kind of tricky.
So when it falls on a weekend, it will essentially be our reduced level of service.
Right. I think if we don't feel like we have the position to, like, we feel like it would be a disservice to riders if we anticipate having a large level, like, demand for transit on that day, because frankly, I don't think that enough other businesses are recognizing Juneteenth at this time, which is a bigger issue. But if we think it would be a hindrance to riders to be able to access the places that they need to go on the holiday this year, then I, at the very least, think that we should recommend that we actually look at the full year's holiday schedule each December for the following year, because I think there are changes to federal holidays and city holidays that happen pretty regularly, and it sounds like this is not something that we have reviewed in a while, if even Mr. Walker doesn't remember exactly where all of these decisions came from. But I think certainly if there's anyone that wants to make a different recommendation or recommend that we do have a reduced level of service, that now's the chance to do that. Okay. Can we, okay. Does anyone know that today?
I believe that Durham and Go Triangle both do operate on a reduced schedule, but I do not know what their ridership is. But our ridership is showing that it stays steady on that holiday.
I understand.
Do we want to make a recommendation that city council consider the question and not make a recommendation, yes or no? Yes, Mr. Suarez?
Can you go back to the slide that showed the holidays? Okay, thanks. I just wanted to look at it for a
Reference it.
second. Yeah, just
Last year was on a Wednesday, this year's on a Thursday. But there are a lot of events happening on the 14th, and some people are doing things on the 21st because it falls during a weekday, so a lot of things are happening on the weekends, so people can participate. And that's just not locally, that's everywhere. So, do we recognize the holiday on Go Raleigh's advertisement?
It is not listed as a holiday on our published holiday schedule because we don't reduce service. So it would be just like Washington's birthday or Columbus Day or Veterans Day. It's not listed in that area because we just provide a full level of service. What that section does is it only tells the rider what days we may be operating at a lesser schedule.
So I'm hearing a bit of a consensus to not make any changes for this summer, just by the nature of the way the conversation is going. Other thoughts?
I mean, I wonder if just being in sync with, the other agencies makes sense. So I'm just looking it up real quick, and just, again, I might miss a detail here, excuse me, but it looks like Go Durham does that plus Juneteenth. Go Triangle does New Year's, MLK, Memorial, Juneteenth also, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve. Yeah, so
So they operate on a holiday schedule on
they
those days?
reduced on holiday Sunday level schedules on Juneteenth, and just one minus. So I was looking for maybe we do something that they don't. But if we did Juneteenth, we'd be our holiday schedule.
Would be the
Again, it's a
same?
quick review. It would be essentially, we would sync up. So it could be and that's just Go Durham and Go Triangle. So perhaps that would sync it up. Just one point.
Okay, I'm real quick, I'm just trying to figure out what y'all are saying. We don't reduce for Juneteenth. Oh, we don't reduce for Juneteenth because we have a large ridership, because businesses are still open. So why would we consider reducing it? Because then you're gonna be depriving 6,000 to 8,000 people of the ability to get around the way they wanna get around. If it's functioning and it's not changing the ridership, then I say leave it as it is, because you must also consider you're gonna have to subtract that income that the bus is gonna be making that day too. I don't care about the other areas. If they don't wanna do it, hey, that's on them. We trying to make money. That's just my point of view.
We're trying to provide a service.
Yeah, I appreciate the service comments.
I agree with Johnny Thomas.
I agree with Mr. Thomas too, and we also don't understand their ridership as well on that day too. I mean, 13,000 people without a ride, I think is impactful. So I agree as well.
That was my dilemma there as well.
My take is the same as the rest of the boards. In addition, especially even for this year, I think that's just way too little of time to think about, consider it. Like considering something maybe back, going forward for 2026, 2027, some kind of thing. But then again, as we're doing BRT, ridership is probably going to be going up by then. I think ridership will continue to increase. Every city or municipality is different, as far as how they handle things. But the good thing is that if it's treated in other ways, like was mentioned, compensation-wise, I think it's it may not be something that's as feasible for us as it is for other municipalities. So I do think we have a larger ridership. It would be tough, and especially since there's a lot of activity still going on. Normal business, some people work. A lot of people don't even have Juneteenth off for regular work. But the ways it's celebrated on the weekends is a great thing, and maybe even going forward, even promoting, maybe to increase ridership going to Juneteenth events that are held either weekends before or weekends after. I think that may even be worth looking at, looking at how to increase viewership of the holiday and going forward. But I agree with David and everyone else. I don't think it's feasible at this juncture, especially for this year, to just try to adjust that service.
Any other thoughts?
Mr. Eatman just came up and mentioned something that we would certainly have to look into. Any reduction in service would potentially require a Title VI and 30-day notice for public hearing. So, and then it would go to City Council. And I don't think we have the timeline
For this year.
to make that happen this year. So that may take some of the immediacy of this conversation off the table, but we can certainly continue it and have further conversation in future meetings if you would like.
That's a good point around the Title VI reporting for reducing service. I'm hearing consensus to not make a recommendation right now. Certainly happy to have other discussion. Vice Chair,
Just
you had a comment?
one quick data point.
Go ahead.
Oh, just a quick Google search. You see Juneteenth events on Saturday, June 15th. So
Yeah, certainly happening.
that,
What was your comments?
Oh, I was going to say, can we defer this to policy at a later time?
That was what I was about to say. Since there's not a desire to make a recommendation for the urgency of this Juneteenth, I think this absolutely does need to go to policy for consideration of this holiday and the whole holiday schedule. So I think we'll move that up in the list of 20-something policies that you guys are examining in the next year. Is that acceptable?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Thank you. And if anyone has comments on that, they can take it up in committee. We are going to keep rolling through with committee reports. Route and Finance and Policy did not meet. Their only agenda items were the two items that we just discussed here as a full board. And then Marketing Committee did meet.
yeah, did meet. This will be quick. So we went over metrics for last month. Pretty business as usual, nothing special. Wanted to highlight January of this year was pretty high. We think it was from the 50th anniversary push. So lesson learned, we think nostalgia sells. So keep that in mind when you got ideas for stuff. I think, let's just work on that nostalgia, guys.
T-shirts are
gonna
wonderful.
drive people. So then we finished up. We dove into more about the marketing campaign. Staff provided some good information, some background about FY24 and 25 campaigns, what came in, what came out, reasons why, what worked, what didn't. Also some demographic and impression data on all of those. So we were able to see like a table of the outlets and some important info like age, race, sex, income, and impressions and cost. So we saw that there were good cases for keeping things like the WRL TV calendar. It performed well. The numbers as provided by them were about 19 million plus impressions. So, I mean, on paper, that sounds like something worth keeping. A little bit more, we talked a little bit more about the influencers campaign that we're going to do. No real details from that, but we'll see how that goes. And we endorsed repeating the hurricanes campaign, which we did last year. It went well. Talked about what went well, what we could improve. So we're going to repeat that most likely, and with some changes, like to get exposure and some more like engagement, like get people to go to the website or sign up and stuff. So it was good. Any questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Yes,
I do have another engagement I do have to leave for. Is that okay?
go ahead.
Excuse me. Thank you.
Thanks for being with us. Have a great day. Other questions? All right, we will move to the general manager's report, which is our last item on our agenda, for those of you that are looking at your watches. We'll try to keep this one efficient. Our lovely ladies are always good at that.
I didn't gonna flip through the slides, just gonna talk to them. I did want to announce that we won Driver of the Year again this year for the state. The rodeo was not this past weekend, but the weekend before that. So we're really excited about that. We do have a delay in our Million Milers campaign. We wanted to do some exciting things in terms of a mural, and it hasn't quite worked out the way we wanted to, so I will keep you posted on the dates and make sure that you have that in advance. All right, so this is just, need glasses. Our accidents by the month. In March, we had 4, and that actually equated to less than the national target average based on FTA information. So it was a little less than 1 per 100,000 miles. Operators by month, March we had 232. I'm happy to report that today we have 244 with 8 part-time operators in training, and we have 24 at various phases of training. So we've been doing some really big campaigns in terms of recruitment. We have a job fair next week. That one's centered for the mechanics, and we have another job fair in June for the operators. Missed trips, last month, or in March, it was 134. In April, it was down to 75. So we're continuing to focus on that. This is just a ridership chart just to show that we are, ridership has increased above the pre-COVID days, and this was around 620 or 30,000 ridership for the month of March. On-time performance, we're continuing to work. That chart is going up slowly and gradually, but we are continuing to work with clever devices to identify those technical issues, and we have identified a lot. And this is the last chart for fixed route, and it's just basically related to the PM schedule. We had 100% of PMs on time, PMs completed on time, which is impressive for our maintenance team, being that we are down 5 mechanics. So they do a really good job of making sure that that's done, and we also favorably exceed the average for failures between road calls. Any questions for me?
Just congratulations to the driver who won Driver of the Year. And thank you for continued recruitment efforts and always bringing a higher driver number to us each month. We definitely appreciate that in our push for ever increasing frequency for all the riders out there. Operators are the key to getting that done.
Yep.
So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so for the paratransit, so this is just a comparison in the costs between the taxis and the vans. Trip costs per the taxis and where they are averaging out. Mr. Teague has gone, but I did want to give him the information he asked us for. So for the month of March, we did have it averaged out for the vans at 67.55. But the average number of trips, we had 2,555. Taxis had 29,524. So you can figure out the average and the cost that's associated with it. Then the cancellations by the clients for the taxis and vans, that's just a comparison, same with the no-shows. He asked for the taxis, missed trips, and the vans. So for the month of March, we did get that information. This is just a chart to show you. For the taxis, they have come down overall. So for March, they had 88 missed trips. And for the vans, we actually had 1 missed trip. So the vans, we do well being the backup to the taxis. The Go Raleigh, the OTP for the 2, so the taxis for the month of March ended out at, 88.41%, and then for the vans, we ended out at 86.99% for the month of March, OTP on-time performance. Any
Thank you.
questions?
I know Mr. Cheek is not here to ask you questions, but we appreciate you giving the information, and I know that he has read it, because he always does.
All right.
Any
Thank
other
you.
questions for paratransit metrics this month? Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
Any concluding remarks from authority members or staff? Mr. Walker?
Yeah, you should see in your email an email that was sent yesterday afternoon from Sue Ellen Colon regarding being a board member appointed by the City of Raleigh City Council. I think I've asked CJ to resend that today, and I think I may have seen it pop up on my phone during this meeting, so you should have it fresh at the top of your email. You may know that City Council is reviewing all the boards and commissions and putting a lot of thought into what they are and what they do. And so we've put together a very short survey. I think they said it might take 4 to 5 minutes. So please take a look at that email, complete that survey as a board member, and we just appreciate the information and input that you provide.
If we completed it already, we don't need to do it again. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other concluding remarks? Before we adjourn, I just wanted to say that we were really grateful for Mr. Eatman being here at his last meeting, even late, and thank him for all his years of service officially while we're still here at the table, even though I think he had to scoot.
Yeah.
He has the privilege of sneaking out now that he's retiring. We'll call that the end of the meeting. We will adjourn. It is 5:18.